Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach, we have been discussing in the non-recorded times about adding a little session here, a little section to the podcast, and just, we don't have a name. Considering, input from the guests. So if you're listening and you want to give us a name for this, but here's what we're going to call it tonight. We're going to call it our Level Up section. And it's just things that we're doing right now to be better football coaches when season comes around. Or right now, honestly, because coaching never ends anymore. So what's up is I want to do our Level Up section. And, I talked about writing articles the other week, so I'm going to put it right back on you.
We just closed, and of course this will be a couple weeks ago when the podcast comes out, but we just closed the offensive play caller system. And we open up enrollment for these systems, these different systems that we have periodically throughout the year, usually about 3 times a year. And I've always felt like the offensive play caller system, I really like what we have in there. I really think it's important stuff for anybody who's going to be calling plays. I even think that it's something that would be really beneficial to somebody on the other side as well. Just from a standpoint of, even though I don't think that other coaches are calling it this way or are doing it this way, but I really like it. And I really think it's beneficial and valuable for offensive play callers. But I'm a defensive guy. So we've always kind of struggled to make that connection with the offensive coaches. And we just closed enrollment. And I think we had as many enroll in this one enrollment session as we did all of last year total. We had 3 different enrollment periods. So I'm excited that we're getting more buy-in on the offensive side. And when I put that together, one of the things I did was look through and see okay, what's really valuable about this. So I don't know that made me a better coach, but it was kind of like one of my favorite things that I've done, that I've put together. And one of the most frustrating things is, I talked about this for a long time, actually, for a long time, not now, I think we've updated other stuff, but for a long time, the 33 stack that I did in 2016, it's been updated since then. But for a long time, that was my favorite course, but everybody wanted the 4.3 and the 4.25. And then I still to this day, I think it's Football Coaching 101, which we do very well with. But I think the Pistol Power offense system is one of our best now, starting to get more traction in the last year or two. And now the offensive play caller system, which I think is something that I put a lot of work and a lot of thought into, and really like it, and feeling like that's getting some more attention, buy-in, whatever the case may be. So excited to get. I really enjoy offense, and I really enjoy getting involved on the offensive side more and more and more. So excited about it, and excited to work with those coaches.
And I think that's a great way. You said you're a defensive guy, but you've switching sides almost, right?
Yeah,
I've
been an offense coordinator
for the last few years,
6 seasons, or offense coordinator for 5 seasons.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. I've really tried to network with some guys that are good. They say kind of like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, or whatever that crazy saying is. But I think it's the same thing in football, right? If you're not, it's funny, we're kind of calling this level up, but if you aren't leveling up your people, your friendship, your network, you can get stuck in an echo chamber of the guys that want to do the same thing that you've always been doing. And so, that's something I did real big this year, was just reached out and just getting on people on a Zoom call and just talk ball. Obviously do the other podcast too. I had Owasso's new head coach, Antonio Graham. He came on and talked with us this week. And something he just kept talking about is I can't believe people aren't talking ball like this anymore. It's so hard to get into an office together, but man, we have the internet. And if you're not using that to branch out and talk to people, what are you doing? Just use that time. So, having a course, putting together a course, honestly, talk to some guys and then put it into a lesson. How are you going to teach your coaches that? I just think that there's so much you can do with that. So,
well, it is very interesting, and one of the things that we use in some of our promotion for it is for Football Coaching 101. Really, is where we use it, and we talk about I like studies. There's not a ton of studies involving football beyond. I mean, there's boatloads on concussions,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of grant money going around for football, and more so NFL than even college, and less so high school. But there's a couple of different studies that have been done over the years, and one of which is that um, football, unlike any other sport, really, football is the one sport where the level that you played at has relatively little impact on your success. The correlation between the level you played at is not very high compared to how much you're going to win. What is the highest correlation is between years of experience and how much you win. So we can talk about like the wacky things that happen, when somebody's a prodigy. The Sean McVay story, right, where he's just like out of nowhere, all of a sudden he's like this great coach. That's a massive exception, and it's much more likely that they're Pete Carroll, where they had where they had failure, Lou Holtz failures. And these guys don't really, and even to an extent, not that Nick Saban was a failure at any point in time. He struggled in some different spots. Obviously, LSU was where it really took off, and Alabama was just out of control. But Belichick was the same way. Like they had periods of time where, and the biggest correlation is experience. You can't do anything about that, right? All you can do is be like, well, I'm just going to keep showing up and being on these sidelines until I get good. The second biggest correlation for football coaches is the experience of the people around you. In other words, you can actually get we use the smash the learning curve type of thing. And you're not really smashing the learning curve, you're just doing it in a different way, because the way that most coaches or a lot of coaches are doing it is just this linear, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And if you do what you're saying, what we try to do is get involved. That's why I want our coaches involved in our Q&A calls. I want our coaches involved in these things, because that, and I've seen a lot of coaches, and you were one, who got involved in the Q&A calls frequently, and it's a difference. It makes a huge difference, because you are getting in with coaches that have experience. It's not just me on there, and sharing and listening to podcasts is like, this is listening to a podcast, getting a course, buying a course, like you said. Making a course is awesome, because if you can teach it, you start to learn. This is what I like. I've made a lot of courses and a lot of systems and stuff, put them together and sold them. And what happens when you do that is that opens you up to letting all of these coaches pick holes in them. What about this? Why isn't this there? What do we do if this happens? And like, I think some people think that I just have like fanboys buying this stuff. That is not the case at all. Everybody's going out there and using it and coming back and saying, hey, this didn't work for me. How do I fix this? What do I do about this? You didn't talk about this. And you learn from that. And you learn from answering questions. I learned from talking to coaches who were in all 50 states and all over the world, talking about all their different situations. I figured out that even though we were hardly seeing the double wing, now we see a lot more of it. But at the time, there was only 1 or 2 teams in the state of Virginia running double wing. But I already had an idea, because we had seen so much of it,
Right.
With coaches who were in California, where they were seeing more of it. The number one thing is years on the sideline. You can't do anything about it other than be on the sideline. And the number 2 thing is, and I think what we're going to talk about tonight, is a way to get more experience for sure. But the number 2 thing is being around, and that doesn't necessarily mean, of course, the way that they measured that was experience on your staff. So that goes, that's kind of the coaching tree, right? How do I get to be a better football coach? Well, I'm on, the old coaching tree thing, Bill Walsh's coaching. If you're on Bill Walsh's coaching tree, like, you're instantly a better coach. But there's a lot more than just getting, especially today, like you said, there's a lot more than just getting hired. You can actually be around coaches who have more experience or coaches who have different experience than you. And we're going to talk about another way to get that in this episode, to get more experience without actually having to be on the sidelines and, figured it out.
Well, I'm going to steal your paying the bills here for a minute. So if you haven't listened to the last few episodes, joedanielfootball.com/rules, you get the 40 rules that Joe's put together that kind of accelerate that success as a coach anyway. It's rules he's found that have held true over time, all the years he's been coaching. And unfortunately, I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank on examples because I don't usually sell this one, but these are not my bills to pay. But run over to joedanielfootball.com/rules, get the 40 rules to having a more successful program. But what I really wanted to say is, and I've spoke about it many times, and that is the JDFB systems, I think, is 10 years experience in a package. And yes, I arbitrarily made up that number at random. I don't know exactly, but
we don't really have another option.
I can tell you when I get into a room, that's about where I fit in. The guys who are naturally at 7 years, I feel like I either know another position group that they haven't had time to get to, or I understand run fits from multiple, because Joe's got 3-3, 3-4, 4-2-5, 4-3, all are on there as defense. And I've picked through them because just like every one of you guys is listening, I don't know what system I want to run either, right? I go between every year of like, do I want that super basic 4-2-5? Do I want to tinker? Do I want to go 3-3 because that's the new one that every coach hates to block? Like, where do I want it? So I dig through the stuff, and so basically what I'm saying is it's given me that ability to number one, I can coach any single position on the defense to standard or better. And offense, I'm getting there. O-line, I dug in way early. Running backs is pretty freaking easy. Angles and timing and let's go. Footwork, right? And then wide receivers is still the one I'm terrible at because I don't know. I don't know why, really. I think because I played it in high school in a wing T system, and I've drawn a big X on wide receivers. Like, I don't want to do that. But anyway, my point is,
I'll tell you what, wide receivers is one of the hardest things in wide receivers. And you met a wide receivers coach that I had worked with, and I'm Chris. Completely blanking. Sorry, Chris. We need to get in touch with him now. Who's been very successful as a Division I wide receivers coach. But one of the things that impressed me was when we were at Ellsworth. Chestnut, thank you, Jesus. He just connected with a very difficult receivers group at that JUCO level, and he could connect with those kids and get those kids to number one, play hard, and number two, care about their craft. Linemen are, obviously you have to get buy-in from some linemen. They don't want to be there, but by and large, you'll get your linemen because they know there's no stats or anything, right? They're not worried about getting the ball. When at some point they accept like this is the deal. But receivers, especially at a high school level, a lot of times we're talking about guys who are only going to touch the ball 2, 3, 6, 7 times in a game. Now, if you've got a playmaker, really special kid, you're gonna up that with any way that you can. But to get them to say, look, hey, we only throw the ball 15 times a game. Like you said, you're a receiver in a wing T system. How do I get that kid to now want to go out there and block like an animal for the other 45 snaps, or in a wing T system could be more. Right. I think that's the value. That's the hardest thing about being a receivers coach. Totally off the rails, but wow. I think that if you can do that, and the way that you do that is by showing them why it's important, how it's going to be valuable to them, and then just be detail oriented. But if you can do that, if you can motivate those guys, show them how much you care, show them how much you want to be there with them. There's too many guys that want to be the quarterback's coach. And we talked about this on recent podcasts. We need more guys that want to be running backs coaches and want to be receivers coaches and want to be like offensive line coaches. That's like, not that there's anything wrong with wanting to be a quarterback's coach, but too many guys break in. They're like, I'm going to be a quarterback expert. It's like, bro, everybody's doing that. You want to be a receivers expert. You want to be a special teams expert. You want to be a DB's expert. You want to be a D-line expert.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you who the quarterback coach is. The head coach or the coordinator. So if you're just breaking in, ain't gonna be you.
So yeah, I just think that your system. You talk about years of experience is what correlates success. That is a way. If you're looking for the like you said, there's nothing you can do but be on the sideline. So I have to unfortunately disagree a little bit. And you can go out and get these systems.
Oh yeah.
Joe's being and it is maybe you only read half of it and it's 4 years of experience for you. But now you're a year one guy and you can walk in the office and you can talk in depth about a position group when you're supposed to be. Knowing your role and shutting the hell up. You don't have to do that anymore, right? You can bring something to the table. So, anyway, just my little pay the bills there. Tonight we're actually talking watching game film, and we're going to talk about how to get better. You probably already read the title, and I'm sure it says something about how to get better at watching game film. So that's what we're here
Leveling up
for
your
tonight.
game film. No, I don't know what we're calling it.
and so I'll just jump into the first question here, and something I struggled with, especially if you jump schools a bunch. My career has been full of that so far, from school to school. Where am I going to get this game film? What should I be watching? What game film should I be watching?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest things is that, and like you said, if you leave a school and they take you off the huddle account and you're hunting for your next job, but you're off the huddle account, right? Hopefully, you have a good relationship and you get that, you get the film. And um in a situation like you being a freshman coach, it's like hopefully you've got access to the JV film and the varsity film and all the exchange film. Um, and if everybody's cool with it, like download that film, take that film, um, spend a little money and open a quick cut account. I mean, they have a lot more. By the way, it's a lot more time that you can. It's a lot cheaper than Huddle. You could actually reasonably, do that. I don't know if you could, you do that with Huddle. You kind of, I don't do it. But like that's a possibility. But like the one thing is collect as much film as you can along the way. Um, if you have coaches at other schools, preferably that aren't on your schedule, share film. Like I'm sure that you can go on Twitter and get a group of guys who will share film together. If you're active on Twitter or active on um, any other social media, um, you could probably go into the JDFB. Nobody's ever done this. I don't know, maybe, but you guys are welcome to go into JDFB and just say, "Hey, I'm looking for some guys that want to share some film." Like we're 425. I don't share all of my stuff because I prefer not to share other coaches' film unless I
Right.
curate it. Right? It's not. I don't mind. I create products and stuff, and they're usually pretty good looking film. Right? I go in and you send me a full season of your offense, and I'm picking out handfuls of plays that I really like, that are that I'm curating it. Um, but a lot of those coaches would probably be happy to share their film.
Yeah.
It's also just really difficult for me to go in and like, okay, this person's their credit card got declined. I got to take them off the. Like, I'm going to do it now.
Right.
Because we got to have some sort of limits to it. So that's one way. And I think if you really went out there and worked to get some sort of exchange, film exchange, a lot of coaches would share. There's also a lot of sources of all 22 that are out there that are not necessarily allowed, but there are a number of coaches who have curated all 22 film, and there's different things pop up here and there. Other coaches share their stuff. I think some of the coaches, I don't know if Kenny does, Kenny Simpson does share film.
Yeah, I think he's got like part of his website part of your subscription is like all access to his game film.
Right. Yeah. Rick. So some of those other guys will share it. So that's a potential. But I'll tell you one that I think a lot of guys don't think that you can, and we'll talk about how you can learn from this. But one of the easiest thing to do is you're going to get years and years of film with the NFL Game Rewind stuff.
That
I mean,
stole mine, Joe.
right off the bat, like you've got, I don't know how many years they have up there, and I haven't honestly, it's something that I mess with in the off season. I haven't looked at it this off season yet. Um, I've always wanted to do more with it. It's I also don't think that it's something that they would want me to do, but um, some people go and like screen record it and load it into their huddle and stuff. It's never been something desirable to me, but
Right.
what we're going to talk about tonight, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be your level. Um, it doesn't have to be your, um, it doesn't have to be on your level. It doesn't have to be the same offense or the same defense or any of that. None of it matters. Um, it, I was just trying to look to see before I, go into all that, that it was, um, I don't know what they're doing now.
Talking about the NFL. It's like the
Yeah.
NFL Plus account or whatever.
Is it NFL Plus? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I know I
But
got
yeah,
charged for
same
it, so
thing.
I assume there's still something. But
Yeah.
you can also, like, it doesn't have to be all 22 film. You can watch just about every college game from the history of the world on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, there's boatloads, and you can watch a lot. You can probably, if you go digging, I'm going to guess. I know that there's some. I know that a lot of high schools do. I think you can probably, if you go digging, find a lot of high school football film on YouTube, probably youth film. That's just, it's not going to pop up in your feed because 26 people watched it, but a lot of it is probably there. I believe NFHS, you can get archive games on there, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure that most of them are just a sideline camera. So, there's a lot of film out there that's available. Now, obviously, NFHS, and I don't think NFHS is not expensive, I don't think. But that's a potential. YouTube, tons of film that you just have to dig for it. It's probably one of those things where I know that I've gone in digging for film, and the hardest thing is you got to sift through a lot of highlights. If you could set the search to be like, don't show me anything that's less than like a half hour, that'd be great. I don't think you can, but you can if it's 7 minutes, like it's going to be a highlight. If it's 3 hours, it's just a camera sitting in an end zone or whatever, and it's like you're gonna have to fast forward a lot. But there's a lot of sources of film out there if you're looking for film, and the key is, you don't want to watch crappy film. So you don't want to just random high schools. Like, look up the best schools in your state. Look up some of the best schools, because a lot of times those end up on there. Look up to some of the best schools in your area. Like, I think my old Amelia stuff was on, not my, was on Facebook. So like it might still be there. I have no idea. You know how something hits the internet, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
People stream these games now so that grandma and grandpa can watch it, and it stays somewhere. So there is a huge amount of sources of film if you'll go digging for it.
That's what I was gonna say is like, most of the teams in my region they have a YouTube for their school, and
Mhm.
it's out there and it never goes away. Matter of fact, at Stillwell last year when I was there, that was something we were a little bit concerned about is like, why? I mean, yeah, we're swapping game film with you, but you have the last 5 years of game film. All you gotta do is type in our YouTube, right? And it's yours, and there's no fee to get
There you
in
go. You
because
can watch Stillwell on YouTube. There
there
you
you
go.
go, break down Stillwell's game film. And, a lot of people are using OBS, screen record type stuff,
Mhm.
because then you have it, and you throw it in your huddle or quick cuts or whatever you're using, and you can edit the film, cut it up, and now you just have game film, right? And now you can go in and watch it. I
Well,
can't
I
say
mean,
that I've
YouTube, you
never
can
done
just
that
use
in a
YouTube downloaders. There's a billion YouTube downloaders. You can just,
yeah.
you know,
Um, I did the
not
same thing for we had a team that didn't want to share film, so I just went and they sent it to us, but it was super crappy,
mhm.
random order, that old gimmick, and so I just looked up their freaking YouTube from their school, and I screen recorded their entire game, and then that's how we got game film. Like, I
I've
had
done it many
1080p
times.
or 4K or whatever it was in, like, "You know what, dude? You wanna send me crappy film? We'll find it." So, you can do the same thing, right? Reach out and get that.
We have many times had schools that did not want to. I mean, here's one. and this is actually, so I looked up a team that sometimes doesn't want to share film, but I ended up finding another team with the same name, full game film on there.
Yeah.
So like there's, I mean, you can go, and it's sideline shot, right? It's 3 hours of a camera just running in the corner, so the grandma could watch the game even though she can't be there. So there's a lot of that available.
And
So
it's usually way higher quality because of what they are streaming it in 1080 to
because there's
get the people to actually
right,
log into their YouTube. So,
yeah, and
yeah,
so
so
and then your job is just to do some research on the teams. Um, you don't want, and actually there is the team that I was looking for. So yeah, their playoff games on there, which I've never seen. I might see it soon.
thank you, YouTube.
So yeah, I mean, and that took 2 seconds of just typing in a school name, and it pops up. So then the thing is, hey, do we what are we looking for? What are we trying to find? But we'll talk about that. You really don't need like specifics. I know some people want to understand what we're trying to do here. Oh, look at that. That's my old school. Understand what we're trying to do. Not when I was there. What we're trying to do here is to get better at watching game film, not to study. So I think it's very important to understand here. This is not about film. This is not about studying a opponent. This is not about studying a particular system. Like, yes, like for us, like every we have tons of film. I need to figure out some that's not there. Like I organize my film that I've posted by, you know, specifics of, it's organized by, all clips of power or something like that. Because that's, if you want to study, power, there's every clip against a double wing. So you can look at those things. But like, this is about you getting better at watching game film, and there's a big benefit to watching high schools that do different stuff that you've never seen, and colleges. And I think we all think like, we're going to get into some college and learn all their stuff. It's like that's not the goal here. And there's also a big benefit to watching the NFL, and you're going to find out two things. One, they do everything really good, but they also do a lot of things that like you shouldn't do. There's a lot of things that they do that you shouldn't do. And Division One's the same way. All football's the same way. You watch teams and you're just baffled by some of the things they do.
I was going to say, I think you may find that they're doing a bunch of the same stuff you're doing, right? We've had Dom on a few times now, and what did he talk about? Like, yeah, we just ran cover 3 behind
cover 3,
them.
cover 1, right?
Right, and
They're
it's
probably
like,
going to match
wait
3,
a minute,
but
I do that. Like, yeah, you're right, and so do the Falcons, and so do the Chargers, and so right. I mean, so I think the Chargers is where I went to watch 4-2-5 film because it looked so much like TCU's. Mainly because I'm a Kenneth Murray fan because he's from OU, but right, and I'm flipping over, I'm like, hey, this is 4-2-5 film I need to be watching. So you can go find stuff. You just got to be careful with what you're getting. Another thing
if
is,
you were, by the way, if you were running our Miami 4-3 defense. Now, when I say our Miami 4-3 defense, obviously you know where I stole it from.
Credit.
The 4-3 defense system that's based on the Miami. If you go and watch Jimmy Johnson era Dallas Cowboys film, which obviously all the Super Bowls are out there and everything. I don't think they show like some classic games and stuff, but but if you go and watch that, you're probably not going to get all 22. But if you go and watch those games, modern 4-3 doesn't look like what we're doing. Everybody's multiple now, but that was what he was running in Dallas. Was the same thing that he was running in Miami, and for a while, and the same thing that we teach essentially. So yeah, you can get a ton off of that stuff.
So next question is, what am I looking for when I'm watching film? And I'll kind of start here. And we segued into it pretty good there. You're not. I'll put it this way. You talked about, you're not watching it to learn football. I think it's a great place to better your system. And so, Joe, you talk about all the time in the pistol power offense. With my verbiage, I can create any offense. Mm-hmm. If I need to be in the wing T, I have a way to call that formation. I have a way to make that happen. So this is a really good chance for you to get better at that. One of the things later we're talking about in that practice plan is have a system to name everything, right? How am I going to name every formation, tight end on, tight end off, doubles, trips, quads? And obviously, we're going to use a lot of those same terms, but where's the back set, right? I need to know that as well, because that way you're going to get really good at breaking down by formation exactly what's coming. So when I'm watching game film, that's the first thing I'm doing. I'm looking at formations. I'm looking at the regular football stuff, power. I'm looking at counter. I want to know, what are these run plays, and can I diagnose them by just what I'm seeing? You speak also, Joe, a bunch of times about, like, you hired somebody from another country to tag game film and you taught them patterns, right? If guard and tackle pull, guess what? That's counter. And we see that over and over, right? If GH counter. Those are things you can learn to recognize. If you're not already good at it, then this is a great way to test yourself to go, what is this run play? What's the big one now? It's like, is that inside zone or duo, right? So you can go and try to see if you can decipher that. And maybe you can't, right? That's okay. I can tell you, like, 85% of coaches probably can't. I just pulled that number out of nowhere. But there's a lot of them out there that don't know any difference if it's inside zone backwards or power without a kicker, right? So it's a great place to go see football being played and learn how to diagnose it. Another place is like route concepts. Lord have mercy, everyone runs them a little bit different, but there's like 20 route concepts or whatever that are named. Like, they have names because they've been concepts for so long that everyone knows. We all know what smash is, right? We all know what a dagger is. We all know what these things are. And it's like, if you don't, then this is a great way for you to get in and go, I'm seeing a hitch with a post on the other, from the inside guy. What is that? And then maybe you can go to Google and find it and educate yourself on what are these common terms. Someone out there is calling it fruit roll up or
Yep.
squeezable juice box, or someone's giving it some stupid name because we're coaches and we want to not look like we're copying stuff when it's exactly what we're all doing. But it's a great place to test that. It is also a place to learn ball in such, like, maybe you're a 3-4 coach, okay, and you have your stunts, your blitzes in action. You might see something that matches your scheme, and you're like, I have verbiage to run that. So it is also a great place to pick up a new wrinkle, right? So those are things I think you can absolutely do when you're turning that game film on.
Yeah, I think you can definitely get new ideas. Um, I would go a different direction with this, and we'll talk about it. Um, I would be very purposeful, um, and we kind of bleed into the idea of practicing this. What is it that you want to get better at? And if you simply watch more game film, so if you take this and you say, I'm going to watch more game film, and even if you take it and you exchange those games with other coaches, or you pull up all of the fast 5 years from your team's huddle, especially like if you've been at a school for a couple of years, but they've got, their huddle has the last 8 years of games on there, like, boom, you can watch that right now. If you do that, if you pull all that stuff, let's say that you do get your own quick cut account, and you could get your own huddle account too, but it's just going to be way more expensive and you're going to run out of storage. You can go in there and you could tag that film and get much better at your tagging and naming. You don't have to load it up on there. You could open an Excel file and start tagging it that way, and just, based off of YouTube, whatever, tag a timestamp and tag the play. You have lots of options, as creative as you want to get. But if you do that and just do an overall, this is kind of like experience, right? If you just watch a bunch of game film, even if you tag it, even if it's specifically a particular system that you want to learn or you want to run, if you go in there with just, I'm going to watch a bunch of game film and I'm going to tag it, and maybe you even pad it. Maybe you even get out the squares on paper And by the way, this is a great thing to I don't think that there's any problem in this as long as you have the time and you have something that you're looking to learn from, where you actually draw out the movement of every single player. I would do this specifically in for a system or for a particular something that you're looking for, but like you will learn a lot about how players react and because you'll see, this guy goes this way, this linebacker goes this way, doesn't pay attention to this. But that's going to be a very general look. And you're going to spend a lot of hours watching film and you will get better. I think that I don't remember all the education terms, more like specific practice, more like what, like today, and not that you should like, hey, this year I'm going to study receivers. And because you'll be very disappointed if you're watching high school film, you'll only see them half the time. But the idea that I'm going to study the receivers and I'm going to study specifically, I want to see how the receivers, block or whatever whatever I want to get specific on. I would come up with specific things that you want to do when you watch that film. And that does a few things. It makes that film infinitely more valuable to you if you have good film. If you're looking at an NFL, like whatever, if you're looking at a game film from last year, if you're looking at a team that you really want to beat, or if you're looking at a team that you really like to watch, maybe you got a hold of your favorite college team's film. If I got 14 games of Georgia, or next year I get however many 15 games of Georgia, 3 of them against Alabama. Can't wait. Sit down and watch them, and just there's the added benefit of like I actually like this team. That film, if you watch that film for specific practice, that film becomes infinitely more valuable to you, because there's a watch through on the receivers, and there's a watch through on the running backs, and there's a dozen watch throughs on the offensive line, right? This play I want to this time I want to see this time I want to see this. I want to see, study how this time I want to study how the linebackers react to different backfield actions. I think if you do specific practice and take the time to learn, you don't have time to do this in season, right? You don't have time to get that. You get to watch film during season. You might get to watch a lot of film during season. I don't know, I don't, but you might. I mean, I do watch a lot of film, but it's not my team. It just happens to be my job.
Best job in the world.
Yeah, well, it's a good job. But in season you don't have the chance to do that. So now you can take that film, you get good film that you like. It's got, good players. It's got a good opponent that you want to see. And, something specific. You got a system that you want to look at, and you got a defense that you want to look at. And that film becomes infinitely valuable because there's so many angles that you can watch it from, and do a 30 or 45 minute watch through and come away with having practiced something that is important. And that's going to help you, obviously, like if you're the defensive line coach and you watch more defensive line play, you're learning, how can I watch my defensive linemen and find more stuff on them. I'm not even watching it from a standpoint of, again, looking for technique ideas. I want to watch it from a standpoint of I am watching this. Like you said, you'll get ideas. If you're running this film, you're going to see things. You're going to be like, oh, what was that? Like, I'm here watching the defensive line, but I just saw some crazy, trick play, and I'm like, run it back. Okay, mark that one down and go back and watch it, or whatever. You don't have to be laser focused, like you don't see anything else in the room. But I think that I'm watching it from a standpoint of like, I just want to get better at watching this position group or watching for this thing. And you mentioned like when Paul Alexander was the offensive line coach. I don't know if he still is. I don't know what Paul Alexander's doing. I think he's retired. When he was the offensive line coach for for the Bengals a few years ago. 2018. Okay. When he was with the Bengals for a while and a long time. And his offensive system was essentially ours: power, counter, inside zone, outside zone. And I would always pull that up with our players, their offensive line, and show them the Bengals. And I would let it run a few clips. Let it run 3 steps. What play is that? Like, I just wanted them to know, like, this isn't something we made up.
Right.
And you got this beautiful end zone shot, and I go 1, 2, 3, 3 steps. Well, and they bird walked all the time. So they're like, okay, I know I've done those 3 steps 1,000 times. That's outside zone. I've done those 3 steps 1,000 times. That's they start to learn. And when you do that with them, they start to learn how to watch football. So when the football isn't that special. Like, football plays aren't that special. You can always look at run fits. You can always look at defensive line play. You can always look at, and they may not, it's like offensive line. I don't teach hands. I teach big surface. I teach more of a shoulder block. And it just didn't work for me. The hands didn't work for me. Our kids are weak, upper body wise, strong, squat, clean, stronger. You can build that up to a 225 clean a lot faster than you can get to a 300-pound bench press. Or 100. I had kids with a 225 clean and 185-pound bench press, and it's like, one of these sucks, and one of them we can work with. So I can still watch, and I can go, okay, they use hands, I use big surface, but we all use feet. And so I can just study their footwork on an outside zone. I can study their, and I can study their hands and see, like, hey, maybe I can fix the things we did.
Right.
And so, I can watch through, and, one of the nice things about, again, I don't know what they're doing with it now, but, one of the nice things about the NFL stuff was, like, it told you, is this a run or is this a pass? So you skip through and be like, all right.
That's pretty handy.
Because it tells you what the play and the result of the play is. I really don't know what they're doing now with it, and I'm curious because I'm pretty sure I paid for it.
I think it's NFL.
Oh, it's the NFL Plus replays.
Yes.
Okay.
So kind of getting to our final part here, and that is, having a plan to practice this. So what would my plan be if I want to practice getting better at watching film?
Okay, you're right. It's NFL Plus, because now I have the Super Bowl on my screen.
There you go.
I mean, that's a great way. I mean, and I think it's $100 a year.
That's not bad.
I believe it's not bad.
For unlimited all 22, like,
you're legitimately getting, if this is something that interests you, this film goes all the way back to 2009. As far as I know, every game, including, like, preseason.
It'll teach you, hey, get Brady. If you find Brady, you're good.
Yeah, so I mean, you're 15 years, 14 years of film
for $100. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we start building this plan. My first of all, the practice plan is, it's going to be, treat this, and maybe this is multiple, watch throughs, like you said, Joe, but I'm treating it as if I'm sitting down on Saturday morning, and I know I've got a cup of coffee, and I know my kids are in the living room making noise, but I have to treat this like it's that weekend, and I'm going to break down film, because number one, that's what we're doing it for. You want to get better at film because you're ultimately just trying to get more efficient and get more information out of your opponent's game film. So that's how I'm going to set it up. You talked about earlier, like screen record or download, whatever, drop it in your quick cut, your huddle, cut it up, make it like game film like you're used to, because there's no sense in setting through a 3.5-hour broadcast view of an NFL game when you're just wasting a lot of time. Yes, cutting it up takes time too, but Lord have mercy, if you're going to get serious about this, you're probably going to watch that film 5 or 6 times. There's no reason to watch all 3.5, 4.5 hours 5 or 6 times. So that's number one. I'm setting up like that.
Definitely at least use something that has a good fast forward on it.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, legitimately, I don't, we get nothing from the NFL. Trust me. It is all cut up for you, and it is all 22, and it is sideline and end zone.
Well, that's
and it is basically labeled. I mean, it's labeled with a run or a pass.
That's awesome.
So
So
I mean, that one.
build you a book that contains your system. So what I mean by your system is like, how do we name this? How am I recognizing these plays? What are these formations? What is that pass concept? And that way you can kind of go back and see every play you watch. Does it fit in my system? Does my system contain that? Yes or no? The way that I name things. Maybe it's a new route concept and you've never seen it to give it a name. Look, once you're a coordinator, especially if you're talking defensive coordinator here, um, you want something you can give to all of your coworkers anyway, right? The other coaches, they're going to be helping you break down film. They need to know, what do you call that too? If you're all just naming it willy-nilly or whatever, then that's not going to work out so well. That's not efficient. So yeah, treat it like a breakdown week. Go in and you're trying to figure out who is their playmaker. Now you're watching NFL, they're all playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd bet some money that you're going to find who they're trying to get the ball to that week, especially. What was their game plan going in? And then see if it repeats, right? Okay, let's look at the Bengals right now. Jamar Chase is the game plan, right?
It does look like, by the way, they took down all the old all 22, which is annoying. But you do have this season, so I mean, you've got what? I don't know if they have 2022 on there. All 2023 appears to be there.
And that's 17 games times
17 games times, and it looks like all 2022 is on there. And it looks like, I'm just, before I give bad information and somebody goes and signs up and then comes back and is like, I paid $100. It looks like all 2022 and 2023 are there. So you're going to have a lot of film to look at. And then, I mean, everything's there. It's just not the all 22.
Right. So yeah, trying to figure out who are they as a team. If you're watching NFL, of course they're going to be a little more balanced, but look, there's teams out there that are gap scheme NFL teams. Look at the Miami Dolphins this year, right? Like, man, they wanted to run gap scheme. That's what they want to do. They wanted to everything we're all trying to do in high school right now. Window dressing and run gap scheme because almost any kid can do it. And they're doing the same thing at that level. So who's the zone teams? Who wants to throw it around? And so you just start going in and trying to identify these things about those teams, just like you're going to do on Saturday when you get that game film. I want to know who the playmakers are, who they're trying to get the ball to. You said something a few years ago when I first started coming on the podcast about who is the playmaker they don't know they have, right? Who's the guy that they probably need to be getting the ball to, and they're not. They don't know he's there yet. But can you recognize someone like that? Because when you make them rip that first page out of the playbook, that might be their number 2 option. You better have a plan for him too, right?
Yeah, this could be very beneficial to your fantasy football team.
And
it
that
exist. There's things that we look for. And this is all in the Game Film Masterclass that's opening up at the end of March. But you're exactly right. Like, we do we call it first watch. Watch it one time through, and you watch it one time through, and it's, what's their identity? Who are they? Who do they think they are? Who do they want to be? Who are they really? Who's their best player? Who do they think is their best player? Who's their worst player? That's stuff that you can find out and quite honestly, we do that. We call it first watch. And when we're watching game film, we just let it run. Take the remote, put it under the couch cushion, and let it run one time. You still got a notepad out, but you let it run and you just try to figure this out. And you don't let anything else interfere, but just watch it.
Yeah. Another thing you might identify is just like, where did scheme struggle? Where did whatever it is, right? I mean, number one, you're watching random film, so you don't know who their all-star is. Maybe you do get some high school film. You talked earlier about, look up a local high school. Yeah. You don't know everything about them. You don't know who their good guys, who was their senior, who was their freshman. You don't know, right?
It doesn't be local. I mean, like, again, it was YouTube. We're all over. Like,
that's right.
I watched a lot of film from a lot of parts of the country,
and watch me not be able to problem solve on Friday nights. It'll be great. You can laugh at me later. But so that's kind of how I'm treated. I want to get in. I want to get in my huddle. I want to do all my breakdown data, formation. I pulled it up earlier, right? I want to know what play tree it's out of, what obviously play type, run, pass, all that good stuff. I want to know, is that zone? Is it bootleg? Is that, we get into gap scheme? Is it power counter? Was it some weird version? Look, we played Bixby this year 5 times. You know what their crazy stuff was? Is like super counter and super duper counter. They had GTYH counter. Okay. How are you stopping that? So, just getting into the nitty gritty, break it down as far as you possibly can. Once again, just like it's Saturday night, start comparing it what defense they're running because, guys, you might get 2 game films from your opponent and you're an even front and they're only against odd teams, right? Odd front teams. And so you're not going to get the same plays. They might completely change the script on you. They probably, I mean, they're going to have to run things differently, right? So maybe you could try to dissect some rules because you have time right now and see if you can get good at that. Like if I can identify what are the rules they're probably blocking with, or what are they reading. RPOs is a big one, right? What have they been successful with? Yeah, is it running the ball they're really good at, and now they can fit an RPO in, or is it vice versa? Are they having to throw to open up the run? Just things like that. Just getting better at that breakdown of your opponent is what I'm using this for.
I would say one is, by the way, learning to recognize RPOs versus play actions
Oh,
versus
you mean every
run.
time the ball's thrown, it's not just
Not
an
an
RPO?
RPO. It's not an
Oh,
RPO.
I thought it was. Sorry.
Starting to recognize, but recognizing the in all seriousness, recognizing the read if there's a read, or those different things. If there's not a read, if it's a play action, there's a read obviously, but it's not the same concept of what's that run pass key for them, and recognizing those kinds of things. How play, those are all things that you can do. I think one of the things that I would add is I would make it offensive or defensive specific. I would not try to, or special teams. I would not, and I would not ignore special teams. I would spend some time on special teams as well in your time that you have, because look for pump blocks and all those sorts of things. How did they get there? What went wrong? You can find a lot of neat stuff. A lot of it's going to be bad snaps. Some of it's going to be punter fumbles and stuff. It's especially when you get to higher levels. The higher the level, the more likely it is that the scheme isn't broken. We get blocks on high school level because a lot of times we can look at it and go, this scheme is broken. And a lot of times it's somebody trying to do something cool, but missing some key element of it, missing some key piece. And so we're able to exploit that. But you get to higher levels, it's usually a bad snap or a mishandled punt or something like that. Occasionally, it's just somebody gets a great jump or there's a miscommunication in the blocking scheme or something. But I would make it an offense or a defense or a special team session. It would be very, very purposeful, and I would be going in with the purpose of practicing a skill. Like you said, this may be multiple watches. There is the opportunity to do the first watch. And again, I teach all these things in the Game Film Masterclass. There's the opportunity to grab any film you want and do the first watch and just let it run all the way through. And that's going to take you, depending on the level and depending on many different things, it might take you 20 minutes, it might take you 30 minutes, it might, however long it is to watch that all the way through. And when we do the first watch, a lot of times we will watch the entire game, because you want the feel of the game. So if you want to know, how did they score? Were they scoring off of? Because otherwise you'll get and like we talked about before, that we talked about last week. One of the numbers that Dub Maddox talked about in the clinic that I was at last week or a couple weeks ago, was the possession and 10 number. And so that's one that I'll spend more time looking at than I might have done in the past. It might have just been like it's first down. And now that possession and 10 will probably be labeled and it will be separated out and it'll be looked at. But I would go into the watch with the purpose, like you do the first watch, like I said, and I would run that all the way through. But after you've done that, and maybe you do that once with the film, regardless, but after you've done that, I would be very purposeful in position technique. I would, if you want to do a watch through on watching the defensive line, specifically defensive line technique or offensive line technique. How are they, and it can go as far as footwork, hands, and everything, but probably initially, just I would watch a position group specifically. I would go into watch a position, think of this as if in an ideal world, And high school is not the ideal world, and youth is certainly not. In an ideal world, the coordinator would watch the overall play, and he would have a line coach who watched his offensive line for the detail, and he would have a receivers coach who watched for the detail, or a DBs coach who watched for the detail. And oftentimes we don't necessarily get that because the offensive coordinator is the quarterback's coach or is the O-line coach and also is the linebackers coach. And so, like, how much is he going to be able to do when he's also got to go and break down the opponent and game plan for next week and put together the practice plan and all that sort of stuff. But in an ideal world, in a college environment, in an NFL environment, the coordinator is watching the overall. A position coach is watching his position group, and then he's watching the opposing side, right? He's watching the defensive line. Then when he goes to watch other teams, he's going to watch the offensive line. And watching, we can talk about watching the offensive line from the standpoint I'm watching the offensive line as an offensive line coach. And then I can also turn around and watch that offensive line from the standpoint of how am I attacking that offensive line? So again, I can do a watch through of the defensive line technique. Then I can do a watch through of the offensive line and how I want to attack them and what I see and the opportunities that I see. And it does not have to, football is not that complicated. It does not need to be the scheme that you run. Sit there and look for things that and it's actually a really good feeling when this happens. I'll tell you what I get to all the time. This is what I get to do all the time. Because I've done it for a long time and I've given it up. And I will sit there and I will watch a team and I will say, your corner's coming out of coverage. They're going to attack that. And then 3 plays later, the corner gets hit over his head with a play action for a touchdown. And and when you start watching film and start recognizing that player is out of position, or this thing is so again, I would watch offensive or defensive. I would watch position technique. I would watch opportunities to attack the opposing position group. I would watch run fits specifically. Just watch all the run plays and just watch. And in fact, you could couple this with pass rush lanes. So whenever you watch a pass play, watch the pass rush lanes that the defensive line takes. Are you seeing? Watch the defensive ends. The defensive ends jump inside, and bam, the quarterback scoots out the outside over and over again. And you start to learn, like, okay, I can't do that. So now you start to learn as an offensive line coach or as a quarterbacks coach. I need to watch this film. I need to see this on film and start teaching a D gap escape, or start teaching this week it's an AB gap escape because the tackles are all over the place. This week is a D gap escape because the defensive ends are constantly jumping inside. So I would look at run fits, pass rush lanes. I would take time to look at coverages. And as I said, high school is going to be very hard. A lot of times, if you've got film like I have of small high schools, it's hard. If you've got the YouTube film from the top of the stands, it's easier. But the smaller the school, the harder it is because the smaller the stands.
Right.
And either the film is too tight or the film is so zoomed out that you can't see anything going on. I would watch situational football, specifically, what's happening on turnover downs. Turnover downs being, well, again, possession intent, something to look at, but specifically I'm talking 3rd down, 4th down when you may lose the football on the next play if you don't get it. What are they doing? Situational football red zone, situational football goal line, specifically watching that kind of stuff. And then I would also watch it from a play caller standpoint. And I would watch it from you can do all of these things. You can do them over and over again. You can get as creative as you want. Hey, I just want to use this film for something. I like watching teams that I've never played, that I've never scouted, that I'm never going to play, that I've never going to scout. And I like watching them and thinking in terms of, I don't even watch the opposing offense. It's like I'm just watching the defense and I'm just thinking I would run, okay, now I run this play. And let them get set up by the offense that's running it, but I don't care what they run. I see I'm looking for specifically weaknesses, just like we teach in the offensive play caller system. Okay. I see that they're playing press. I want to run fade. I see that they're running cover 3. I want to run 4 verts. I see that the linebacker is not triggering with the guard pull. So I'm going to run power. I see that the backside end is squatting. So I'm going to run inside zone. I don't have to block him. I'll just read him. My RPO is open, my bubble's open, my screen's open, and at that point you're just thinking through your plays and your play calling. You're just sharpening the play calling mindset. We call that. We can do that with our exchange film, even though the opponent's not running what we run. We just call it, playing the game before the game, sitting there watching your opponent's offense or defense and thinking about, this is what I call when they do this. This is what I want to call when they do that. This is what I want to call. They've set me not doing it in a after the fact. So not doing it so much in a, which you can do this too, but not doing it so much in a, okay, they just ran cover 3. I would have liked to have been in 4 verts. Okay, they've been in cover 3 every 1st and 10. I want to run 4 verts on 1st and 10. That kind of thought process. Thinking ahead rather than thinking backwards. But there's just, I would want to be specific and have like when we go to a practice, we don't go practice football. Like we don't do it from a, hey, this is a bad practice is we just go out there and it's like a lazy PE. It's like a PE teacher who's a year away from retirement. Roll the basketballs out, pull out a newspaper. Let's not do that. Let's go from a standpoint of today is offense focused. Today is run focused. Today is zone run game focus. Today is gap schemes and play actions focus, or whatever it is. Today I'm the offensive line coach, and today we are going out there to fix our footwork on whatever. And so I'm going to go out there, I'm going to become a better film watcher doing it the exact same way. And I might spend a week watching or more. Hey, I'm just going to watch nothing but, because I feel like if you just sit there and jump around to different things, like, again, I think if you spend a month doing nothing but watching defensive line play and just from everywhere you could find, like, do you need to do it for a year? No. But if you do 30 minutes a day, it's a lot of film. It's a lot more. 15 hours of specifically focused film in a month is going to put you ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah. So we'll kind of start closing out here, but I just want to, it doesn't matter what industry you work in. When people are really good at something, they're rehearsing, they're practicing, they're going through the motions that they're going to go through when the live action comes. And you just hit it kind of on the head there with, like, looking at this as a play caller. I'm watching what I got from the Miami Dolphins defense, and I'm going, what would I hit them with? It doesn't matter who they are. It's the fact that they're going to have those tendencies. They're going to show that they're still just guys that they're playing ball. Once again, you tone that down to D1, D2, D3, high school film. You're obviously going to see more of those mistakes and be able to kind of more your lane where you want to be. But it doesn't matter if, like, you're the military or I watched a documentary on Michael Jackson, and the guy, I mean, we all, he died, and in his 40th year of entertaining or performing, he was still going and doing rehearsals before the concerts, like weeks before the concerts. You know what I mean? I mean, you talk about being a perfectionist. So it's okay to spend some of your off-season time doing in-season things, and that sometimes is watching film. You probably don't need to practice how to do laundry on game night. Okay, that's not something you necessarily need to do. Not that you can't get better at getting those whites, back to being pearly white, but you absolutely can practice watching film. You can practice everything. Rehearse before the spotlights come on. Before it's game time and coach is expecting a certain amount of film broke down by Sunday morning or whatever. Practice having a game film ready in 48 hours. I mean, a game plan, right? So go out and get that rehearsal, get that practice. This is a great time to do it. That's what Joe's talking about. I know that we're going to be selling the Game Film Masterclass. Joe said it comes open here at the end of March. Is it open for 2 weeks?
Just the last week of March, unless you're a client. If you're a member, then there's a QR code in your newsletter.
There you
can get in that, and there's a discount.
By the way, newsletter, amazing, loved it. Glad you finally pulled that through, because I wasn't so sure. I was like, well, we'll see, but it showed up. It's perfect. It's like getting only the sports section out of the newspaper. It's
exactly, yeah. It's the only part you want. Like when you're a kid and there's comics and sports and like all this other stuff.
Right.
Like, why are they wasting all of this paper?
Right.
Exactly. Nobody wants this. It's just want the sports and the comics.
So get in that game film masterclass. You know, it really does. You know, Joe's got all the specifics. It just helps you be better. It's this episode of the podcast, but like on steroids. You're going to get just so many more things to look for. It truly is another great product. Obviously, Joe's all of his stuff is pretty good. Really,
And you really truly do not need. I know for a lot of youth coaches, you know, you don't get film, or if you're a lot of freshmen JV, you may not get film. Middle school coaches, you may not get film. Hopefully you have somebody filming your games, even if it's just, you know, a mom with an iPhone up in the stands. But again, you can take this and use your film for self-scouting and you will get infinitely better. And then just getting better at the game, especially if you have a intention of moving to, you know, if you're middle school coach and you're just starting out and you want to move up to the high school, and freshman coach and you want to move up to the varsity level. There really is, you can learn a lot from your self scout and then by watching other people's film and using this system.
Yeah. So jump on that. You can also jump over join.joedanielfootball.com. Get signed up today. I believe it's still $1. Get you 7 days access. Kind of get in and check out everything that's there. 4 defensive systems: the 4-3, 4-2-5, 3-4, and 3-3 stack. You also get the pistol power offense, guys. These are all complete systems, but they all work. They can intertwine together. You know, something I've saw getting really big around my area is being 3-4 and 4-2-5. Right? People want both. Different teams give you different things. I said earlier, watch film and someone plays power against an odd front a certain way, and you have a way to defeat that. You might want to be odd front this week. So that's okay, right? So it's okay to have multiple systems at your fingertips. And that's exactly what Joe's done for you. You also get into the chalkboard forums, come in, ask your questions. This is where Joe's telling you, go over there and ask for film. Hey, guys, who's got 4-2-5 versus put your offense here? I would love to see some film on that. Who wants to share? Maybe they'll hook you up. Chalk Talks are bi-weekly right now in the off season. We get back in season, those go to weekly. That is a Q&A call.
We're once a month now, and then we have the film room.
Oh, so there you go. Sorry.
We're once a month now, which will be at the end of March. It'll be right maybe the week after this comes out.
There you go. And then film room on the
this comes out. And then film room will be the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. In season though, man, that is a Q&A session with Joe, the guy who's maybe not created, but curated the system that you were probably running if you're in that, right? And you get to ask him, how does he handle this crazy thing that your opponent's doing this week? So you don't have to go it alone. It's you essentially you're investing in another football coach on staff. And then game film analysis is the ultimate product, right? Getting that platinum set up and you know, shoot off your game film or your opponent's, probably yours, because we're not really there to help you break down your opponent's film.
Yeah, I only take your film. I don't
go.
I don't break down your opponents. That's a whole
get eyes on what you're doing wrong. So we've said this whole time, that's kind of what we're looking for. Take everything we talked about tonight and use it for self-scout. But game film analysis is like the ultimate self-scout, is by having that outside, that third party that can check it out and tell you what you need to fix. Join.joedanielfootball.com. You already said the cells were the game film analysis, or the game film masterclass. Moves us on to social media. You can find me at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can also email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I do have a Instagram. My wife is like a pro at that stuff because that's what her PT stuff does. I don't know how to use that yet. Okay, I've hit that age where I remember my dad couldn't figure out computers, and I was like, Dad, this is super simple. It's like making sandwiches. It's just so simple. Why is this so hard? And now I'm like, they're doing stuff nowadays that I don't know that it's worth my time. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Not sure. So if you see me on Instagram, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. I don't know.
I've always been of the opinion that you just have a limited amount of things that you can do. You know, as far as like, there's no reason to be on everything. I mean, I'm on everything, but I'm not on everything. Like, I'm not really.
Yep.
But I am.
You were on Facebook, Joe Daniel Football.
Yep.
The rest of them are at Football. No, at Football Info is your Twitter and X, and then Joe Daniel Football on. We're on TikTok now.
Yeah, we actually we're blowing up on TikTok.
Blowing up.
Get some trolls now, which is fun. Reminds me of Facebook and why I don't look at Facebook very much. I was just going to look at my stats here. Look at my stats here, because it just kind of like, I don't know, took off. And it, you know what the funny thing is? It took off because of the trolls.
That's
So
even better.
thank you, trolls. But we just went over 200 followers, so very cool.
Perfect.
On TikTok. I don't know if I care, but you guys that like TikTok were there, and I do look at the comments there.
Better than the rest of them.
No, I look at Instagram. I always look at Instagram, and I always look at TikTok. And I do always look at Twitter.
Twitter eventually.
I just don't. The DMs, like I will answer a lot of general questions. Sometimes I get DMs that are like, "How do you defend, power in the 4-2-5 defense?" And it's like, well, for $1, you can get all of that. So
jump
you
over
can get every bit of it.
football.com.
But I'm not going to sit there and type out a 3-page dissertation on it.
There you go. Awesome.
Usually, for whatever reason, the other platforms tend to get just short little, comments, and I see them all and I appreciate them when I get them. So, except for the trolls.
So jump over to TikTok and troll Joe, please.
Troll me, please.
It's helping.
My friends have found it now, so they'll like screen cap the trolls.
Perfect.
And like, guys, so they're like, "Oh, this is because you suck." I'm like, "Thanks."
You obviously don't have the credentials, Joe.
What
are your credentials?
Yeah, I did get asked what and what your credentials were.
Mine? I have no credentials, guys.
They asked what your credentials. I don't need credentials. I've been doing this for 15 years. That's my credentials.
I love it. Now I got to go get. I'm super anti TikTok because of the whole Chinese government stealing all of our data thing.
Sure,
but I might have to get it just to go talk to trolls.
It's one of those. I'm not excited about being on it, but the engagement is super high, and this is a business, so
that's fine. Sell out your country for a bit. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I'll sell out my country for.
Your co-host is a military guy, and I'll have to die for that.
See, that's what I got you for, is that I can sell out my country to try to make a buck, and then you guys can go in and take care of me.
Exactly.
Right. That's how it works, isn't it?
That's how it works.
Yeah.
If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes or Joe threatening my life with TikTok. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, not SoundCloud, but all the rest of them. If you've been listening for a while, please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. I'm not sure that trolls would help out as much there, so probably not the place to troll. But if you do it, whatever.
No, troll on TikTok. I'll appreciate that.
Go troll on TikTok. We love it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.